All right. How are we doing? Facebook. Hey, Jason Wilmot here. What I'm doing is I wanted to go live. I wanted to do a little bit more of this live interaction stuff. So what I'm going to ask of you is if you've got questions, chat them below. Here's what I'm aiming to do on this. So last Friday, I kind of put out a message. I said, hey, I know a lot of businesses or business owners struggle with online marketing. And what I want to do is just kind of come up with a way like this to help people. So if you have questions about online marketing, I would appreciate you just chatting them below. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of dip back in to the messages that I had prior to this. And a couple of people reached out to me on Friday and said, hey, I've got a question about this or this and this, and I want to go through those during this time. So if you have a question, that would be a great time, or it would be a great spot to ask that below. Now, what I'm doing more today than anything is experimenting with this. So I have, I'm trying to broadcast this to my YouTube channel. You should subscribe if you haven't already, as well as my Facebook page, a couple different groups, and I'm just trying to do this more regularly. So, which kind of brings me to the first point, and it's going to bring me to some of these little fun little things that I'm going to play around with. So I just finished. I just finished a something called Funnel Accelerator. So it's a lot of you know that I've been helping businesses for quite some time now, and what I just finished was my program 2.0 of something called Funnel Accelerator. So it's an online course. There's 6 weeks or 6 modules, and it's designed to help you build a sales funnel, automate your sales funnel, and so you can grow with predictability and proof. And what do I mean by that? I can happily get into that, but I did kind of want to give that a little promo before I got going too far on that. So let me put this up on the screen because I'm trying to just experiment with all of this. I had like a cool little graphic, but I'm not sure if I can put that on here or not. We'll see if I can do this. I'm not seeing that I can at the moment. So anyways, so if you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop them below. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get into the first question that was asked last week. And it was, let me pull it up on the screen for you. Okay. It was this. It said, Jason, this was from Brian. So Brian runs a local business. Not that always matters, but primarily what we're going to be talking about when I'm on these are primarily like lead funnels. So if your business runs on leads, clients, and customers, what I would encourage you to do is think through this process that I'm about to show you. So to date, I've helped businesses revenue about $50 million through the funnels that I've created, helped multiple Grammy Award-winning artists. Like I could go down the road. Hopefully there's more success stories in the future, but what I want to do is give you sound advice. So I'm qualifying myself to say, hey, listener, hey, viewer, I do know what I'm talking about here. So if you've got questions regarding this, I feel like I can help you. So, so the question is, what sort of investment does it take on my side in order to kind of run a campaign here? And so I think there's a couple different answers. So one, it depends on how much money you have, right? So if you have let's say that you have a business and you're willing to spend some marketing money on it. Let's talk about the minimum amount that you could set aside for that. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring up something to my right here that's going to show you kind of a little bit about what a funnel looks like, because I took some time to make a couple fun little graphics here. So one thing, by the way, I don't know if anybody's chatted or anything so far. So I've got a chat open, but I'm not seeing anything. If I can't see it, that's okay. I'll just learn how to do this better the next time. So apologies. So, okay. So to my right here, there we go. I've got a funnel. And what a lot of you are doing is you are so convinced, and this is not a bad thing, but you're convinced that you need to be out creating content like this, right? Putting things on YouTube, making Facebook posts, doing tweets, blogs, articles, all of that kind of stuff. But what I would encourage you to think through, if you, like, this is the question here is, what's the realistic expected investment to run an effective campaign here? I would say that you can start off with $5 a day. However, what I would encourage you to do is to not think from the top of the funnel down, right? What I would encourage you to do is I'm going to show you like multiple steps here along this pathway, but I essentially kind of build my funnels in 6 steps. And I would encourage you to think about the step number 3. So step number 3 involves retargeting and remarketing. So if you have a limited budget when it comes to online marketing, I would not send in new traffic using a Facebook or a Google search or any of that campaign. Like if you have a minimum dollar amount of $5 a day that you can spend on online advertising, I would start with retargeting. So retargeting is putting your message back in front of the people who've already been there. And I want you to think about it this way. So if you're a small business, or any business for that matter, you have your website on your business card, right? It's printed on your website, or your URL, I should say. Your URL is printed on your website. It's probably printed on every single marketing material that you've ever created, right? So a lot of times people say like, well, I just need to get more traffic to the website to increase sales. And what I would say to that is no. In fact, what you need to do is you need to add automation so that the folks who come to your website see your ads first. You see, in the land of internet marketing, where it really boils down to is intent. What is this person's intent? So if you have a business and you have an offer and you're trying to drive people to your website to present them with an offer, what you need to focus on is kind of how to set up internal qualifying systems so that if people click on a specific page of your website, if they go somewhere else specifically, you can put an ad back in front of them. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you have a website, most of the time, people have like a contact us page, right? You've got a home page, maybe a contact us page. If they visit that contact us page, then that means that they're probably a little bit more qualified than the people who just hit your website and bounce. So if you have things like retargeting or remarketing set up, then that would behoove you to only advertise to the people who are qualified, right? So you can go off and you can still continue to send in organic traffic, or if you're hustling on the streets, whatever you're doing to drive traffic in, at least you have this system set up to advertise to the people who are visiting a website who have displayed a little bit more intent than somebody else. Now, the problem with starting with retargeting and remarketing is like kind of doing you a disservice insofar as it does take a little bit of time to set up, because at the bottom of your funnel is this very, very important thing, okay? The very important thing that I want to tell you about at the bottom of your funnel is this thing called proof, right? Because we live in a digital age, mostly, we can design our websites to really know what's happening on our advertising front. So if I put in $1 on Facebook, I'm going to know if I'm making money on that on the back end. That's how you help businesses scale, like past $50 million in revenue, right? I've done multiple 6 figures, multiple 7 figures, multiple 8-figure funnels. And it always comes down to tracking. So if you can track what you're doing, then that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. And I'm trying to bring it all back to this original question, right? Of what's the realistic expectation. I should have just reworded this question. To make a live campaign. So you can start off with remarketing and retargeting. That's definitely where I would start. And this answer is going out to Brian. Brian runs a local HVAC company. I'm probably going to mess up the name. I think it's Elite. You should check it out. There's a plug for you, Brian. But he asked this question. And so like you should definitely start with retargeting on the bottom of your funnel. So once you've figured out how to do, Facebook and Instagram retargeting, which I would always start with, by the way. So Facebook and Instagram retargeting, let me just back up. The way that retargeting works, a lot of people get this confused, right? And I'm not going to do a whole deep dive into retargeting and remarketing here, but remember, retargeting or remarketing is actually a better term, because you're marketing to the folks who you've already touched base with, or who have already qualified themselves with. And the beauty about Facebook and Instagram, starting with retargeting and remarketing on Instagram on these platforms, is this. When it comes to retargeting, it really boils down to logic. So the way that I like to really build my logic is I like to build out my audience according to pages that were visited on my website, and then days since those pages were visited. Meaning, if somebody comes to my website and they go to the Contact Us page, and they don't reach out, what I want to do is I want to put a message back in front of those folks. But I don't want to just like endlessly cast this message out to them forever, right? Let's say that I only want to do this for 14 days. Well, this is where your logic comes in. So I say, okay, I want to set up my retargeting remarketing to the people who've been on this specific page, but I only want to display this ad to them for the next 14 days. And the beauty about this, when you start understanding how to kind of set this up, is that you can say, hey, I want to give them a testimonial on days 1 and 3. I want to give them something else on days 4 through 7, and then another thing on days 8 through 14, if I got all my days right. So that's the way that you can kind of structure it and think through this. And the reason why I would always start with Facebook and Instagram is because it's the easiest to build out these audiences. When you get into Google Display, which I would definitely do, and that's the next thing that I would add in, right? I would add, let's see, step 4, right? After you've baked in Facebook and Instagram retargeting, then I would layer on Google Ads or Google Display remarketing. And the biggest reason here is it's free until somebody clicks, right? There's display ads. So if you visit HACKTICS.com and you leave, you're going to see all these display ads everywhere. And the reason why I do that is because I want to stay omnipresent in my remarketing, because you've displayed intent. And even though you haven't like qualified yourself more than the other, I just want to keep my message in front of you, because I've either spent my time, my money, or my energy driving you to my website. So the reason why I would stick with Google Display then after this is because you can kind of achieve this little omnipresence sort of play, which is fantastic, because now you have Facebook and Instagram actually targeting the folks with specific messages because you've built out that logic. And then you have this Google Display, which is kind of just going to keep your brand top of mind. Now, you can do all of this on $5 a day. That's kind of what I'm suggesting to you, Brian. Like, what I would suggest to you is set up all of this, run it for $5 a day. So your ad spend on Facebook and Instagram would be about $5 a day. Maybe your ad spend on Google Display ads would be like, I would put the budget in as $5, but you're not going to spend that. You are only going to get charged when people click. So you can kind of get it for free. In fact, I don't know my numbers for October. I should. But I do know September, I spent something like $20 on display remarketing. And I think I had like over 10,000 impressions. So it's really, really good money spent. So that's what I would say. Now, let's say that you have a bigger amount, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to go get new clicks and new visitors to your website. What should you expect to do then? So normally what I would suggest to folks is if you have this desire to get into online advertising, I would allocate, and you want to go big, like you want to go, and so let me just kind of show you here. So I believe in the 6 steps, not the 6 steps. I've created 6 steps to build a funnel, and I can kind of walk you through them. So step number 1, let me just show you here. You have to start off with proof. Step number 2, you set up these things called tracking and conversion. Step number 3, you build in your retargeting with Facebook and Instagram. Step number 4, you include your display remarketing. Step number 5 is when you add in YouTube, and we can get all into YouTube. More than happy to get into it. But then step number 6 is like, okay, you've built this automated machine. Now what we need to do is we need to go in and we actually need to send in traffic. So how much would you spend here? I would try to allocate $1,000, because what you're trying to do at the end of the day in internet marketing is you're trying to discover patterns. You're trying to buy data. That's what you're doing. You're giving Facebook, you're giving Instagram, or wherever you're running ads, you're giving them money in the hopes that you can get data. So the data that you're looking for is how many clicks am I getting? What's the click-through rate? What's the conversion rate? All of those metrics. Because what you're trying to do at the end of the day is you're trying to send all of these clicks into your website and then understand if they convert or not. And that's why we always start with our conversions. And that's why I teach, like, you have to build in all of these first before you just send in traffic, right? And the reason why I would definitely set up a retargeting and remarketing first is if you're going to go out and spend money online, you need to send them into a funnel that's already optimized, that you already have this targeting and retargeting set up, because you're going to spend money getting people into them. Like, I run Google search ads. And in fact, those are my highest converting ads for HACKTICS. Why? It's because they display intent. When they type in something like growth marketing course and my ad shows up, they are actively looking for something, and then I'm going to give that to them. But do you know how often they actually opt in? Well, I should say they opt in. I do have a free e-course, and they opt in to that at 10%. So let's say that the other 90% don't opt in, right? What are they going to do? Well, I'm going to show up on their feeds with display ads, with Facebook ads, with YouTube ads, all of those other things, because they've already displayed intent coming in. And what I want to do is continue to serve them, for, like I said, about 14 days. And then after they've kind of exited, I'm going to turn down my marketing spend on them. So what I would do, kind of just to try to summarize this, what is a real expectation for money? I would definitely allocate $5 a day. If you break that down, $5 a day over 30 days is about $150. So $150, about anybody can afford to spend that. In fact, that's going to be some of your best money ever spent. And one more thing I should say on remarketing and retargeting, like if you have the money to go send in new ads and you want to send in people, I would definitely split it at least. Like so allocate some money for retargeting, remarketing, and then I'll allocate some for the rest. All right, let me go to the chat. Again, I don't know if this is working or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause over here and I'm going to look to see if there's anybody chatting. I can't see it. Jason, come on, man. All right, so let's get to question number 2. So question number 2. The question 2, does my website need a funnel, right? Okay. So let me go back to this. Your website is a funnel. Your business is a funnel. Whether you realize it or not, you have a funnel in place. And not a lot of people, I think, understand the funnel part. So let me back up. So your website is not your funnel. Your website is included in your funnel. Your funnel starts actually with people talking about you, with the content that you're putting out online, with the blogs that you're writing, with the conversations people are having about your business, whether you realize it or not. What do I mean by that? So people are talking about your business, whether they realize it or not, good things or bad things, right? Everything. They've come in contact with your business. Maybe they've spoke to their neighbors. Maybe they shared an article online. Maybe they shared a resource online. Like, things are happening in the I was going to try to say something clever like atmosphere or webosphere or something like that, right? But things are happening. People are talking about you. They're talking about your brand. And the purpose of your website is actually to funnel, right? It is not a funnel. The purpose of your website is to funnel people towards your offer. Let me say that one more time. So your brand exists whether people visit your website or not. People are talking about you. You're putting out content. But your website is not a funnel. Your website will funnel people towards your offer, though. It's the vehicle to funnel people to your offer. So on your website, or the purpose of your brand is to drive people to your website, because on your website, that's where you're presenting people with your offer. And you're putting in a clear, specific call to action. So the call to action, if you're a SaaS company, software service, it means like, hey, start a free trial or something like that. If you have a traditional business, your offer is that you're presenting somebody with some value front, and the offer is to schedule a demo, schedule a phone call, request a quote, something like that, right? And then if they take you up on your offer, what you need to be able to do is prove it to your back end. Because what you're trying to do in the age of internet marketing is understand where that lead or that prospect came from so that you can go out and replicate success. And that's why I love paid ads, right? I'm willing to pay $1 to Facebook if I yield $3 on the outside. And of course, if it makes, meets my margins and whatnot. But that is the benefit, and that's why I always start with proof. You have to understand this proof element that people up till now really haven't leveraged, because they're just thinking like, okay, well, I'll just boost this post, I'll just throw out this money on YouTube or wherever, and I hope that it works, right? What I've been kind of educating businesses on over the past couple of years is like, no, you don't have to just make your marketing decisions based upon your gut. You can make them based upon data. You can understand where your time, money, and energy is best spent. So let me kind of come back to does my website need a funnel? So my response to that was no, not necessarily. Your website is part of the funnel. It is the funnel guiding them to your offer. And what you need more than anything on your offer is, well, when you need a captivating offer. If your offer stinks, nobody's going to take you up on it. But if you do have a good offer, like if you have a good service, if you have a good business, if you have this value that you can provide for somebody and they opt into it, then you need to be able to redirect these folks to a thank you page or something like that, that enables your Google Analytics to know that somebody actually took you up on your offer. Now, I have a free e-course that you should definitely take, but it kind of walks you through why you need to set up thank you pages in order to understand this. Now, what I would kind of say is this, like the funnel, right? Everybody loves this idea of a funnel, but where a lot of people make this mistake is they don't have an endpoint in the funnel. Every single funnel needs an endpoint. So if you're doing Facebook Lives, if you're doing the Instagrams, if you're doing the YouTubes, and you're sending people to your website in order to, funnel them, your funnel has to have an endpoint, because that offer is your endpoint. If they take you up on the offer, like you have to understand where that offer was, where that lead came from, and if they took you up on that offer. And if they did, then that is the endpoint, right? Now, there's a lot of things that go on after that. So just because somebody opts in doesn't mean that you've closed them. You might still have to hop on a phone call. You might have to do a demo, but it's the first part. And you need to understand how much this first part it took you. So when we go back to the first question of how much should I be spending online, you should be spending as much as you can. Right? That would be my answer. Spend as much as you can if it is working. I've got a good friend in the SaaS space. I won't drop his brand here, but I talked to their marketing team over this weekend, and they're spending $120,000 every single month on ads. When I first started working with them and coaching their team, they were spending something like $2,000. So when I say something like, how much should I be spending online? Like, you should spend as much as you can, so long as you know that it is being spent effectively and that you can grow because of it. And this business is growing. That's why they're spending $120,000 every single month on ads, because they're printing money. They're literally putting $1 into Facebook and yielding way more out of it. So how do they do that? They have to have an endpoint, though, in their funnel. So yes, your website is sort of part of the funnel, but it's actually bigger than that. Your brand is part of the funnel. Your website is part of your funnel. Your offer is part of your funnel. And I shouldn't say the most important part, because they're all important parts. And I don't like hyperbole. Actually, I do, but I shouldn't say that, because that is hyperbole. One of the most important parts, I should say, of your funnel is the fact that it should have an endpoint right there at the bottom, because that's where you set up your conversions. That's where you set up your tracking. I can connect a click to a customer, meaning if somebody came in from YouTube, a YouTube ad of mine, or a YouTube ad of mine, a Facebook ad, a Facebook Live, whatever, I'm trying to create these different endpoint or these different links and then connect them all the way down to this bottom endpoint of your funnel. Because that informs me that these people coming in off of Facebook, or these people coming in off of Instagram or YouTube, they all convert at a different rate. And the conversion rate is something that is probably one of your most important metrics in business. Because if I am spending $100 a day on Facebook, $100 a day on YouTube, I need to know the difference between the two and how they are, converting. Because if they are converting better from one source, I would take money from YouTube per se and just reallocate it to Facebook and spend more money there, because I can track the results. So that was the question, does my website need a funnel? I've got one more question that I'm going to go over with today, but I'm going to check the chat again to see if there's any. Hey, Mr. Mike, I appreciate that. I'm checking the chat now for another time, and I can see that these are coming in. So how about that? Thank you for saying that, Mike. I appreciate that. Okay, so one last question. What I want to get to is this one. Okay, so what should I look for early in an ad campaign that will indicate what adjustments need to be made? I would have said which. So one more time, what should I look for early in an ad campaign? All right. So it depends, which is a terrible answer, but it's always kind of the answer that I lead with. So again, what you're trying to understand in an early ad campaign is how it's performing. Now, one thing to remember when you are first starting money, and so this came in from somebody who's just starting a business who hasn't really run too many ads online. And I think the context here is, hey, I'm okay with starting to spend some money, but how do I know if it's going to be effective? That's the really, really important part here, right? So, how do I know if it's going to be effective, and what does effective look like? So, to my mind, effective might, well, at the bottom, what you want, hopefully, is conversions. And so that is the number one metric that you're going to be looking for. So before you ever start running any ads online, you should take my free course, because I'm going to show you how to think about this, right? Because what you need to be able to do is you have to create that endpoint. And so when you start running ads on Facebook or on YouTube or on Google Search or Google Display, you're telling Facebook, you're telling Google, you're telling whatever, you're telling them the endpoint. And so what you're going to do after you've spent, I don't know, $100, $500, $1,000, you're going to look at your results to see which ad platform is actually getting people to that final destination. And if you can understand which ad platform is giving you the best results, then you can spend more money there. Now, the other thing, though, to consider is, like, you have to think about retargeting and remarketing and those aspects. So if somebody's coming in, if they're coming into your funnel, you're not going to get them every single time. Like, I think, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think what I've read or I've learned or gleaned from the internet is approximately 3% of people are ready to buy now. So you have to keep that in mind, right? And that doesn't mean 3% of your website visitors are ready to buy now. Don't confuse it with that, right? The people who are searching growth marketing course or something like that on Google, they're actively trying to solve their problem. So you have to understand where people are coming in from. That's a good point to just keep that in mind. But you have to understand not everybody's going to buy right now, right? The example that I kind of give is this: like, we had a hailstorm back in early March, and we needed to go to a roofing contractor to get a new roof. And so I'm going to give this example, but it's not true. I knew who I was going to go to, right? But I actually did check out a couple different websites. Now, what I kind of say to business owners is this: like, there are people actively out there shopping, right? They're trying to find a solution to their problem. So if I went to roofing website A, B, and C, I'm not going to make this decision right away. It's a big decision that I need to weigh, right? So if I go to a website and then I leave, the question that I ask normally to business owners is, what are you doing to keep your brand top of mind for me, right? During my buyer's experience, what am I doing? What are you doing to help me understand that you are the best? So I would go to your website and I would leave. And when I get on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or something else, I need to see testimonials from you, because that's going to push me over the edge to reach out to you. So um, so what you need to do, this is all coming back to this question, like, what would you do for early indications of success in this? You have to see something converting. You have to see something converting. So I would look at your remarketing ads first to make sure that they are converting. And then I would understand where, the top of funnel clicks are coming in and which are converting best. Other metrics to look for: cost per click, and click-through rate. So cost per click, how much is it actually, and excuse me, I wouldn't go cost per click. I would do cost per landing page or landing page view. So how many clicks actually came to your website and they actually loaded the page and viewed. Sometimes Facebook is going to give you, and Google for that matter, are going to give you some interesting results, meaning they clicked, but they didn't even load. So the page actually has to load. And that's going to give you a good indicator of where are people actually coming from, how much is it costing to get them there. And then the other thing that I would look at is time on page. How long are they on your page? If they're coming to your website, they're lasting 6 seconds and they're leaving, then you need to probably cancel that campaign. You instead probably need to go to something with a little bit more intent, like Google search or maybe YouTube, where they've already heard your message, they've already seen a little bit more, and they're going to click through and have some, you're probably going to have a little bit more success there. So, okay. What I'm going to do is I think I'm going to wrap this up. So one thing that I did want to plug, let me see if I can plug this now, because let's see here. I think I need to do this. but it's called Funnel Accelerator Lite. It's my free e-course. Now, I do have a paid course called Funnel Accelerator that's going to show you how to build all of these things that I've been talking about. And I'm this week, actually, I'm going to do some pretty heavy promotion, hence why I'm going live right now. But you have 7 free days to do it. You can hop into the program. You can have 7 free days. You can cancel with one click. You don't have to hop on a phone call or anything like that. I've made it pretty easy for you to try it out. So that's my plug. That's what I'm going to do. And here's my last question, or here's my last comment. So what I would love from you, let me put up my graphics one more time because, you know, I took some time on these this morning, figuring out this program, and might as well do this. So if you have a question about online advertising, I would love for you to write it below. Write it in the comments. I'm going to be going live multiple times this week. Probably continue to do this because I like doing this, because I like teaching people how to think about this and how to do this. So if you have a question or comment, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. I'll come back to this. And I think that is that. So I want to just say thank you to the people who have engaged. Thank you for the people who have left comments. I do already have a few questions ready for my next live, but I'm not going to be doing that today because I'm going to need to wrap this up because the twins are waking up soon and I need to be able to be dad if that happens. So if you guys have any questions, if you have any comments, go ahead and leave those below. I would appreciate it. Otherwise, go to HACKTICS.com, try out my free e-course. You can download that. It's absolutely free, or you can go ahead and get started on the Funnel Accelerator program. That's absolutely free for 7 days if you want to do that as well. So thank you very much. Mike, thank you for chatting with me. I do appreciate that. Thank you for the confirmation that the chat is working. Gives me validation. Just keep using the software, and I will most likely see you all tomorrow. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me live. If there's any more questions, I'll look. Jim, no, I'm not going to quit. Jim, I have seen your comment. Yes, Jim, what is your question? I'll just hang out here for a second and see if I can address it. So, Jim, if you don't ask a question, then I'm just going to sit here looking like a fool. But that's okay, because that's what I've signed up for. So that's funny. So Jim says, would you give your kids a kiss? Yes, I will do that. That is an interesting request from you, Jim. But here I was thinking it was going to be a question. But if you have a different question, then we'll save it for tomorrow. All right. So anyways, I hope everyone is well. Have a great week ahead. I'm going to finish this now. I was just introduced to the internet with weird questions, but hey, we'll live with it. All right. Thank you very much, guys. I will talk to you tomorrow. In the meantime, throw your questions, throw your comments down below, and